Hello and welcome to another World of Warcraft Cataclysm beta video. Today we're going to be looking at the Balanced Druid, and I'm just going to look at the Balanced Druid specifically because there's so many changes that it really needs its own video to be clear. So what I've done is I put together a Moonkin here, and I want to show off, if I can, and hopefully make sense out of all these changes. Moonkin Druids maybe got the largest changes out of any class or any spec combination. It's just totally different. There's a whole new mechanic and a whole new resource even for Druids that's never existed. So let's look at this. Now this is like the lunar solar eclipse mechanic. You're like, what is that? Well, if you know Balanced Druids, you know that the devs have been trying for years to get a system where the Balanced Druid switches between Wrath and Starfire, a balance of the two spells, if you will. You know, get it? But anyway, so the devs have finally succeeded. Before they created a talent called Eclipse, where you spam spells, like say you spam Wrath and it boosts your Starfire, spam Starfire and it boosts your Wrath. It was a little clunky and didn't exactly work the way as intended. So for this expansion, they've gone all out and they've built a whole new resource. In the top left, you see this moon and sun icon. This is your lunar solar balance, or something like along those lines. Every time you cast Wrath, you gain points towards your lunar, and every time you cast Starfire, you gain points towards your solar. And you're like, okay, what does that mean? Well, I just have to show you. So I'm going to spam Wrath at this guy. I'm filming this in Mount Hyjal, by the way. I just found a bunch of random NPCs. So I'm spamming Wrath, and the meter is going towards the moon, right? And this guy's annoying, so I'm going to set him in his tracks. It's getting towards the moon, so I'm going to spam Wrath some more until I get to the end. What happens when you get to the end? You enter an eclipse, and there I've just entered the eclipse. There's no timer on this, and you can even maintain it by when you shift out of the form. So you can like fly around if you want, and come back. You know, having gone to the auction house or whatever, and you still have your eclipse. So it's something you can save up. Okay, so then I'm going to go to this next enemy. What is your eclipse? Damage done by your arcane spells increased by 42%. Cancelled when Starfire causes lunar energy to reach 0. Alright, what does that mean? So now I'm going to spam my Starfire as instructed by that buff, because I have a 42% increase in its damage. This guy's really annoying. Okay, I'm going to just kill him with the Typhoon. Alright, so now I have the Solar Eclipse. Increases damage done by nature spell by 42%. Cancelled when Wrath causes solar energy to reach 0. Alright. So now, hopefully you understand the basic concept. Wrath makes the meter move to the left. Starfire makes the meter move to the right. And by moving to the left or to the right all the way at the end, you get the Eclipse bonus. And as long as you keep the meter on that side, you maintain the Eclipse bonus. That is the basic introduction to the Eclipse system. Now, there's lots more to go over, so I'll try to make this as clear and concise as possible. For the first ability I want to show you, I'm going to show you Star Surge. This does high damage as both nature and arcane. You know how for your other classes, such as your mage, you have Frost Fire and Shadow Frost and all that good stuff. I think priests have Shadow Frost actually, but regardless, so this is both nature and arcane, moves you closer to activating the next eclipse. So what this does is it causes your bar to go the opposite direction. Like, so I have a lunar eclipse, so if I use Star Surge, it's going to push it towards solar. And I'll show you by killing some ogres here. This area is phased, which is why they just appear out of nowhere. Now, I just Star Surged him and it moved closer to solar because it wanted to cause the next eclipse. I'm just waiting for the cooldown now. It is a 15-second cooldown, by the way. I just want to mention that. But there's a mechanic in the talent tree to reset the cooldown, which I'll go over later. So there I Star Surged him again, and it popped up. Now, Star Surge is obviously very powerful and is a fast cast like Wrath. So you want to rotate Star Surge into your rotation and just hit it every single time it's up. Very important to cast that spell. Next, we have a new spell that has nothing to do with the whole rotation, but I still want to go over it real quick. It's called Wild Mushroom. You cast it, little AoE here, and it drops a mushroom on the ground. After 6 seconds, the mushroom will become invisible. Now here's the next part. When detonated, the mushroom will blow up. So this is a landmine. That's what this is, a landmine. Now this one has dropped long enough so it's invisible to enemies. This one just turned invisible, and this one's also invisible. So these are all invisible enemies, so I'm going to blow them up. And they just blew up. Pretty cool. But let's see if we can actually use this strategically. La 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 la. Boom. There, I just blew it up. It did about half his health. Nothing to write home about, but still, it's really cool. I mean, think about the PvP applications of this. Laying landmines everywhere. What other class has landmines, right? I mean, hunters kind of, but they're more like status effects than damage. So that is Wild Mushroom. Kind of out of nowhere. I mean, they seem to be focusing on the balance between arcane and nature. So this is just kind of out of nowhere. But I believe, I mean, this doesn't say in the tooltip what damage it is, but I would assume it's nature damage. So maybe we'll find that out with some testing in the future. But for now, I want to move on past these mushrooms because they're kind of odd, and I really want to focus on the new balance mechanic, which is a lot more interesting to me. Moving on to talents. Now, a lot of these talents are very familiar, like Starlight Wrath and the crit talents and Balance of Power, although this has changed slightly, but these are basic talents. Genesis is still here, Moonkin, of course, and Elkin Frenzy. So a lot of stuff you're going to recognize. All the AoE stuff is the same. You still have Starfall, Typhoon, and Gale Winds. You still have Earth and Moon, although it's been changed to 1 talent point. But there's some other really cool stuff in here that I need to go over. Alright, the first thing I'm going to go over is the Star Surge talent. You have a 4% chance when you deal damage with your Moonfire or Insect Swarm to instantly reset the cooldown Star Surge, okay? So Star Surge is this 15-second cooldown. If you just put Moonfire and Insect Swarm on everything you can, and then it'll give you all of these instant cast Star Surges. I mean, you could practically spam Star Surges if you get really lucky on the procs. So this is obviously a must-have talent no matter what you're doing, and Star Surge is so powerful, and if you get lucky in these procs, you do so much burst damage. Let's move on to Overgrowth. Your Entangling Roots also root all enemies within 8 yards of the target. Now, I guess this is primarily for PvP, but it's really nice to have this long-range AoE root. This is so cool. But this could be useful for any situation where you're AoEing. This is for AoE grinding or what have you, so you can stop and you can cast a hurricane on top of the enemy units. So, moving on from there. Euphoria. While not in eclipse state, you have a small chance to double the solar or lunar energy generated by your Wrath or Starfire. Okay? Now this talent makes no sense if you don't know what the eclipse and everything means. So what this means is that you just have a chance to essentially get like a critical energy. You get double energy. That's pretty nice. And the other thing is that when you do eclipse, you get a whole bunch of your mana back. So Euphoria makes it very useful to constantly be getting eclipses back and forth, because you keep getting mana back every time you do it. Dream State. Now this is still the same concept of being related to mana regeneration, but it's totally different in function. Now when you cast Innervate on yourself, you gain an additional 30% of your total mana over its duration. This is like the old Innervate glyph, and there's a new Innervate glyph that I'll show you later, but for now let's move on here. Fungal Growth. When your Trents die or your Wild Mushrooms are triggered, you generate a fungal growth in its wake, covering the area within 8 yards, slowing enemy targets. So it basically spawns a snare, it spawns a big frost trap right around the area where your fungal growths explode or where your Force of Nature dies. So that's pretty nice. Alright, now that's everything. Okay, no, I'm sorry, there's one more thing before I get to the problems over here. Solar Beam. You cast summon a beam of solar light at the enemy's target location, interrupting the enemy target and silencing all enemy targets. So this is a spellcaster, anti-spellcaster ability. But you have to actually target the thing. It's not just an AoE. Now this guy isn't a spellcaster, but he's still going to cast the beam. So it does cast a big beam of light, and anything standing is silenced. So you see this guy is silenced. Fortunately, he doesn't actually cast spells. That thing he just casts is not a spell, it's an ability. But it also functions to interrupt the person that you're targeting. So, but that happens anyway with silence. But anyway, so that's very cool. It's about time the Druids got a ranged and an interrupt. I mean, before the only real option they had was to shift into bear form, feral charge, and stun him. That was the only way to do it. But now Moon can have a proper interrupt, you could say, with the extra bonus. I mean, the fact that it creates an AoE silence, that the cone of silence, if you will, that is so cool and so unique to this class. I don't think there's any other class that has that. I mean, they have added a few like AoE abilities like that, like standing in the zone type abilities. I know Priest got a couple, Shaman's got one, but nothing like the Silence, nothing that's used offensively. They only give them really defensive ones. So this is really just awesome. I mean, this is AoE Silence, and think about the tactical applications of that. You know, you're in an arena, there's some jerk standing there right around a corner, he's using to try to line of sight you, so he runs around the corner, starts casting a spell, you silence him, and that corner is like, he can't play his game anymore. He runs around the corner, comes back around the cast again, oh, he's just silenced himself again. So it's like if you can pick a choke point or pick some important location and just shut that location down for enemy casters. So PvP, I mean, obviously the implications are huge, but I would never not take this ability. There's so many other times you can use that while grinding and everything. So really very cool, unique ability that I really enjoy just having. Alright, so moving on, this is the problem one I mentioned before, Sunfire. While in Solar Eclipse, your Moonfire will spell morph into Sunfire. Like, so what is Sunfire, you ask? My answer is I have no idea, because it's bugged, it doesn't work. I will show you now. So we're going to get to a Solar Eclipse. My Moonfire right here is on my number 5. Watch this. Alright, just eclipsed. Notice how my number 5 changed icons, okay? Now, it's supposed to change to Sunfire, but it changed to Spiritual Focus rank 1? What? That's like, I don't even know what that is. It's not even a thing for Druid. So this is obviously bugged, and I have sent a balance report, a report in already on that, a bug report. I'm sure to get fixed eventually, but until now, I just have to say I don't know what Sunfire does. It just doesn't work. But hopefully it works by retail. Now, once this is fixed, I'm going to come back and I'm going to put the more information about the spell in the description of the video. But you're not going to be able to get a demonstration of the spell today. I'm sorry about that. The next thing I want to move on to is just absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. It's called Lunar Shower. Alright, they might as well rename this Moonfire Spam. When you cast Moonfire, you gain this buff, which increases the direct damage done by Moonfire and reduces the mana cost. This effect is refreshed and amplified when you move, stacking up to 3 times. Okay, so what this is doing is it's telling you, we at Blizzard would love if you just spammed the heck out of Moonfire just all day long. Alright, I got my Moonfire back, so watch this. I'm just going to zap this guy. I'm going to gain this buff. The direct damage of Moonfire increased by 135%, mana cost reduced by 90%, and it's staying refreshed just because I'm moving. If I stop, it's going to tick down 2, 1, start moving again, and it actually wore off. So let me recast it. And I only cast it twice, but I'm already up to 3 stacks because I was moving. And I actually got out of range and invaded these guys because they're phased. Maybe this isn't the best place to grind, but that's okay. So now I'm just going to kill this guy with Moonfire Spam instead of screwing around. So here we go. Pull him. 2600, 2500. And you see there's a big crit, 5200. The point of me pointing out the numbers is showing how they're actually going up because of this buff. So my Moonfire Spam. So Moonfire Spam is now free. I mean, I'm just really weirded out that they would actually promote the use of Moonfire Spam. I thought Moonfire Spam was one of the most annoying things in the game. And I mean, in Wrath of the Lich King, there was that glyph, I believe it was, that changes your Moonfire so that it does almost no direct damage, but it does really high periodic damage. I mean, I thought that was the direction they wanted to go with it, but I guess not. I guess they like Moonfire Spam. So Moonfire Spam is in, and judicious use of Moonfire is out. So just get that talent and just spam the heck out of Moonfire while running away and annoy your enemies to death. So that is your Lunar Shower. Alright, now I need to see if there's anything else I want to go over. I do want to look at the Mastery talent here. For balance, the Mastery talent increases the bonus damage of your Eclipse by 17%, and each point increases by an additional 1.5. So if you're wondering why 42% seemed like an odd amount, it's actually because it's increased by the Mastery. It's normally just 25%. So get more Mastery points and you get more damage on your Eclipse, and you should be eclipsing like all the time. Before I go, there's one more thing I wanted to go over. I want to take a look at the glyphs, because there is just a couple of glyphs that I think are very important for balance. Most of these prime glyphs are pretty simple, nothing to write home about, but there's one in particular that stands out under major glyphs. Entangling Roots reduces the cast time of your Entangling Roots by 100%. So for only the cost of a major glyph, you get instant Entangling Roots. I just wanted to point that one last glyph out before we go. Alright, well thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next video.